There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. On behalf of Rabbi Weissman and Rabbi Morrison and Russell and everyone at Beth Am, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. How delightful that we can join together as brothers and sisters to welcome our most sacred day. I invite you to turn to page 2 or page 120 of your Mishkan Tefillah prayer book. You can find it, the flip book, on our webpage as we kindle the Sabbath lights.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat. We continue with Kiddush on page 5 or page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'masei v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikrae kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. The words of Lechadodi are on page 20 and 138. I invite you to take a moment to think about this song. It was written in the hills of Svat in the 16th century as people left the town to go follow the Sabbath lights as it soon approached the synagogue, or as it soon approached the town, the Sabbath light. The sun would set and Shabbat would come into Svat. We'll sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Shemor
Our call to prayer, Baruch Hu, page 28 or 146. Please rise. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me? Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. We sing of everlasting love, Ahavat Olam, page 32, 150. Please be seated. We continue with Via Havta on page 36 or 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
In the torrent of news and of so much information that drenches us daily, coupled with our collective exhaustion from these many months of coping with a pandemic, one news item may have passed you by. But it is important for us, for Jews, particularly during a period of increasing anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial, to pause and acknowledge that at the end of April, the Biden administration formally announced that the United States regards the killing of more than 1.5 million Armenians by Turks more than a century ago to be a genocide. This has been a long time coming, and for Armenians, another diasporic people, an overdue but important recognition of their history. Our Siddur states, "We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. And in this way, we are no different from Armenians." And on the day that the White House made its announcement, April 24th, which is Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day, we were reading the portion Kedoshim. Kedoshim tihiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. You will be holy, because I, Adonai, your God, am holy. The pursuit of sanctity necessitates a clear and critical understanding of history. Redemption and liberation require a reckoning with the past. And in this moment, we recommit ourselves to reckoning with our own past and to the work of liberation for all peoples. We look back as we continue to journey forward. Micha Mocha, page 40 and 158.
Adonai, echad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. We sing of shelter and of peace. Hashkivenu. The words are on the screen.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Baruch atah Adonai, haborei sukat, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
We celebrate Shabbat as a sign of an eternal covenant. Vishamru, page 44 and 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. Lasot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם. ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת, ויהי נפש שבת, שבת ויהי נפש. שבת, שבת ויהי נפש. We turn to page 46 or 164 as we enter into the words of the Amidah, the standing prayer. We'll sing the first three blessings together and then have some time for silence. If you'd like, please rise. lai, lai, lai. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, U'mevi gila livnei v'neihem, Leman shemo v'yahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 50 or 168. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah, Rav lehoshia, Morid hatah. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emnato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidom melach, Melech memit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Turn the page. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Page 62 or 180. Yehiyu l'ratzonim refi, Yehiyu l'ratzonim refi, Ve'yon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzori v'go'ali. Oh, may the words of my mouth and the meditation
prayer for healing is on page 253. If you're thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to say their name out loud at this point, even if you're in a room by yourself. Let the presence of their name fill that room. The Beth Am community this Shabbat is praying for Refuah Shlema, for David Baruch Ben Simona, Mason Easley, Arlene Gilliand, Sandra Haptemu, Dorothy Hupert, Morris Hupert, Marvin Jones, Bernice Leader, Bob Silver, Myra Strober, and Diane Weeder.
We've reached a period in our liturgical year when Torah becomes interspersed with topsoil. As we move toward Shavuot, an agricultural holiday that was transformed into the commemoration of the giving of the Torah, we read this week a double portion that concludes the book of Leviticus, Bahar Bechukotai, a double portion that sews together a covenant dependent on agriculture in the land of Israel with a covenant maintained through knowledge of Torah. Shavuot begins next Sunday evening. It is a day for renewing the covenant established at Mount Sinai. The opening words of this week's Torah portion returns us to Sinai. V'yidaber Adonai el Moshe b'har Sinai lemor. God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I assign to you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of Adonai. This statement introduces two concepts related to the soil of Israel, the seventh year fallow and the Jubilee year. In the first case, the land was to be left untilled for a year, every seventh year, a concept known as Shemitah. The second idea is known as Yovel. In every 50th year, the Jubilee year, the land rested or was left untilled, and all Israelite slaves were freed. At the beginning of this week's second portion, Bechukotai, God promises the Israelites that when they arrive in the land of Canaan, your threshing shall overtake the vintage, and your vintage shall overtake the sowing. You shall eat your fill of bread and dwell securely in your land. This verse envisions an incredible bounty, a harvest resulting from a community working hard and living with integrity by the terms of a covenant. But the promised bounty in our portion is conditioned by a pivotal protasis, an if clause, declared in the opening verse of Bechukotai. Im Bechukotai telechu, if you follow my laws. ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and keep my commandments, ve'asitem otam, and do them. Only then your threshing shall overtake the vintage, and you will eat your fill of bread. This if-then statement structures the content of this portion. It connects success in the land to adherence to the covenant. Repeatedly, the text returns to the relationship between law and abundance, between knowledge and success. If you keep, understand, and follow my laws, God states, then this bounty can be yours. Then I will dwell among you. Then you shall live in peace. To reinforce this connection between covenantal responsibility and material abundance, the portion describes in a sharp change of tone what will happen if the Israelites do not live by this covenant. Utilizing another if-then statement, the portion enters into a graphic description of punishment and exile. Ve'im telchu imi keri, but if you are hostile to me, God states, ve'lo tovu lishmoa li, and are not willing to listen to me, then I will lay your cities in ruin and make your sanctuaries desolate, and I will not savor your pleasing odors. I will make the land desolate, so that your enemies who settle in it shall be appalled by it. And you I will scatter among the nations, and I will unsheath the sword against you. Your land shall become a desolation, and your cities a ruin. If you do not heed me, then the land will experience Shemitah, God insists. It will lay fallow, for you will not be there to till it. My land will experience rest, God declares, for you will be living in the land of your enemies. This description of exile and punishment indicates the origins of much of our portion. The writers of these texts described exile and a desolate land, for they knew of it. The composers of our Torah portion, the editors of the book of Leviticus, were living in exile after the destruction of the first temple. There, in Babylonia, these writers were caught between their reality and their aspirations for the world. Living in that space, that gap, they projected themselves both forward and back. With their words, they conjured up once again Sinai. Our portion begins with the phrase Bahar Sinai, and this phrase Bahar Sinai is also used in the final verse of the book of Leviticus. Imaginatively placing themselves once again at that mountain, the writers created a world in words that they still aspired to construct, a world of abundance, security, and peace vouchsafed by an understanding of Torah. The aspirations of the priestly writers of Leviticus should serve us as inspiration. Their ancient worldview is compatible with our own. Throughout the book of Leviticus, and in priestly additions to the Torah as a whole, we may discern a method for functioning as a priest, a method that transcends temple and time, a way of being and working that may move us forward. The priestly goal was to create sanctity in the world. To do this, priests were taught how to make differentiations. In the words of Leviticus, they were taught lehavdil bein hakodesh uvein hachol, to differentiate between the holy and the profane. These priests knew how to create separations, how to distinguish between certain foods and other foods, between proper sacrifice and improper ones. But they were also taught to know the difference between justice and injustice, between improper dealings in the marketplace and proper care for the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. We are moving towards Shavuot, a day for renewing the covenant made at Sinai. And this week, the composers of the book of Leviticus emphasize that the setting for our Torah portion is Mount Sinai. In the book of Exodus, when the Israelites first arrived there, God declared that Israel shall be Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. More than any other movement of Jews, we have laid claim to the notion of being a kingdom of priests. Reform Judaism ascribes to each of us the authority to determine sanctity, to differentiate between the holy and the profane, to declare some categories, some practices within Judaism as outmoded, and to describe new categories of Kedushah, of holiness. And like the priests who created our double Torah portion, an abundance of Torah that promises an abundance, we stand here today cognizant of the gap between our reality and our aspirations, an envisioned future of righteousness and peace. We see Judaism as it is today, but work for a stronger Judaism, a more vibrant Judaism, even a different Judaism for tomorrow. We know of how our community functions and operates today, but we envision a better synagogue, an even more inclusive and dynamic congregation. In our portion this week, at Mount Sinai, God declares the stipulation for a covenant that will lead to security and abundance. It begins with the word if. Im bechukotai telechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, ve'asitem otam. If you follow my laws and keep my mitzvot and do them, then you will have security and peace. There's a midrash that asks, what does the phrase im bechukotai telechu, what does the phrase if you follow my laws mean? Does it mean to keep mitzvot? It can't, the midrash answers, because as the verse continues, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru. If you follow my laws and keep my mitzvot and do them. So then, what is the meaning of im bechukotai telechu, if you follow my laws? What does that mean? It means, the midrash answers, to toil at understanding Torah, to toil at understanding Torah, to toil in Torah, to sift its words for new meanings, to plant ourselves in it, to grow, to flourish. We move toward Shavuot, a day on which we imaginatively place ourselves once again at Sinai. And we are the inheritors of the covenant forged there, and we possess the authority to innovate it. And how do we do this? Like the priests of old, we study our past, we speak a world in words, and then we labor intently to construct it. We continue on page 282 with Aleinu. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורר עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו ושמו
The Kaddish is on page 294 or 598, and this setting is titled Autumn Sonnet. If I can let you go as trees let go their leaves, so casually, one by one, if I can come to know what they do know, that fall is the release, the consummation, then fear of time and the uncertain fruit would not distemper the great lucid skies, this strangest autumn, mellow and acute. If I can take the dark with open eyes and call it seasonal, not harsh or strange, for love itself may need a time of sleep, and, tree-like, stand unmoved before the change. Lose what I lose to keep what I can keep, the strong root still alive under the snow. Love will endure if I can let you go. We remember at this time those of our congregation and of its families who have died during the past week. Jaron Feldstein, husband of Carol Feldstein, father of Dan Feldstein and Patty Reed, and grandfather of Ethan and Zachary Feldstein and Megan and Hannah Reed. Lawrence Levin, father of David Levin, father-in-law of Teresa Zwack, grandfather of Maxwell Levin. And we add to their names the names of those for whom we observe Shloshim, the traditional 30-day period of mourning. Asya Vick and Esther Rose Macauer. And we add to their names the names of those whose yard sites are commemorated this week. Lee Alward, Albert Anteby, Olga Lebovich Atanesov, Alabas, Donna Blank, James Brooks, William H. Brown, Sarah Chachko, June Scher, Bob Dressler, Raina Fell, Phyllis Kahn Fisher, Joseph Ford, Evelyn Frank, Sylvan Frankel, Martin Freed, Adeline Gallant, Raymond Gold, Barbara Goldman, Dorothy Gray, Minna Green, Enid Grossman, Heidi Herberly, Frances Height, Molly Height, Anita Hamburg, Ann Kaplan Harris, Ronald D. Jamtgard, Daniel Kahn, Rhea Cates, Don Neater, Aaron Kolomitz, Hilton Court, Diane La Vergeta, Louise Lowing Crusoe, Martin Leff, Perry Leff, Egon Lustig, Jane Magipinto, Gertrude Maltzman, Rich Martin, Moisey Meeble, Arthur Miller, Ralph Minkoff, Emily Morgenstern, Harry Mervitt, Ruth Named, Shia Nays, Sylvia Pan, Rabbi Aaron D. Pankin, Mark Pianin, Hi Pitt, Sylvia Prosnett, Pessia Rabin, Arden Rappaport, Robert S. Ratner, Anita Rao, Harry Rothblatt, Eric Rudderman, Molly Sagan, Rhea Schnur, William Selleck, Edith Shadle, Harry Wallace Shadle, Esther Siegel, Joan Sinton, Sarah Steinberg, Sonia Strauss, Chaim Teuter, Dorothy Walker, Jean Weil, Harold N. Weiner, Jacob White, Micah May Yisrael, Beatrice Yormark. Zichronam Levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. And we rise now together for Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'yemeru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah b'varach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Da'amiran v'alma v'emiru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yemiru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yemiru. Amen.
Alert your attention to our monthly tzedakah collection. This month we're collecting for a remarkably important institution called Hagar, Jewish Arab Education for Equality. Hagar is the only integrated bilingual education institute for Jews and Arab residents in the south of Israel, and actually only one of the few institutions in all of Israel. Founded in 2006 by Jewish and Arab parents. They're living in the Negev who believe that building a community space and bilingual education system based on values of tolerance and mutual respect would break down the wall of fear and ignorance that separates many Arabs and Jews. It's an honor to be able to support this terrific organization in Israel. We invite you to contribute to our tzedakah box on the Beth Am webpage. You can also send a check to the Beth Am office, and we ask you to be as generous as possible. As we do each Shabbat, we have the foyer, the post-service discussion with Rabbi Morrison. We'll be there in the foyer talking about his terrific sermon. You can ask questions about leading up to Shavuot. If you've never been to the foyer, I encourage you to sign up or try it. Really friendly people, a nice way to celebrate Shabbat. You can find the link on the Beth Am webpage, or just we'll post it again one more time at the end of services. So, Rabbi Morrison in the foyer with the candlestick. It will be terrific. So, we sing our words of peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. If you're in the prayer book, page 353 or 657, but just sing it out loud.
Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam.
we do holla to Rabbi Weissman and Rachel Tash and all the moms and the grandmas and the aunts and the loving friends out there. We wish you the happiest of Mother's Day. We'll say Motzi together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Take good care.